This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Monday, March 17th of 2025. It is St. Patrick's Day. Of course, I'm wearing my green today. Hopefully you did as well and avoided getting pinched. We're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I talk with Will Tubbs of Pioneer about their latest soybean seed traits. We'll also have a check of the closing markets with Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. But first, I had that conversation with Will Tubbs at Commodity Classic in Denver, Colorado. Will, thanks for taking the time to visit with us today. Several new traits out with Pioneer Seed. Tell us a little bit about those newest innovations.
Yeah. So appreciate the time conversation. So within Pioneer, we're bringing out a few new traits right now. We're on a trait transition process. So previously we've had our Acre Max and our Chrome products within the Pioneer corn lineup. And we're actually now transitioning to some new technologies, some new traits. So what that would mean is our previously when we had Chrome, that's now actually transitioning to Vorseed Enlist. That's important. What we like about that is, one, it adds in some additional modes of action for corn rootworm protection, and then it's very easy for our breeders to work with, so making sure we're still getting the high yield genetics to come through that end up on farmers' farms. And then on top of that, there's some added herbicide flexibility. So 4 modes of action for herbicide resistance within that trait. So Roundup and Liberty, like our previous traits had, but we also add in tolerance to our Enlist herbicides and then FOP herbicides as well, just for that corn acre. And then on the above ground side of things, so previously where we had our Acre Max products, we're now moving to our Power Core Enlist and then Power Core Ultra Enlist. And so a similar thing, very easy for our breeders to work with to maintain some of those higher yielding genetics, but then some additional protection above ground from above ground pests. Think about different corn borer species, especially across the U.S. That is a big deal. And then again, the added herbicide flexibility, so it'll also have tolerance to 2,4-D choline with our Enlist products, Roundup and Liberty, and then the FOP tolerance as well. Yeah.
And you mentioned with that corn borer, but especially with the corn rootworm this year pressure. It's been a very mild winter overall, and that insect pressure is going to be pretty heavy as it is. And it kind of seems like we talk about that a lot being heavy pressure, but with that heavy pressure, how important is it to get ahead of that with some applications?
Yeah, so it's actually part of the reason we did move forward with Vorseed Enlist. So the added benefit there versus some of our legacy products would have been we add in some RNAi technology really to help manage that adult beetle concentration and what that means for additional pressure. So when we're thinking about just managing adult beetle, typically that was always done with some sort of pesticide application later in the season. But now we actually add in that ability, the trait can actually do some of that work as well. Maybe that can help us, be more efficient with how we're treating those or managing those adult populations to get ahead, like you're mentioning. Those species, we're seeing that especially across Iowa kind of develop resistance to some of those different proteins, and that's why we wanted to add in another mode of action, again, just to help corn farmers make sure that if they're growing a field of corn and they want to grow corn on that same acre next year, they have that with hopefully a little less headache for next year.
Like I said, planting season is going to be sneaking up on us. It'll be here before we know it. What's the optimal time to start getting those those insecticides and other applications lined up to where they can be effective for this year?
Yeah, I'm a planner. I always want to encourage people to plan, as far ahead as possible. So I would say, typically before that seed goes in the ground, you always want to have a game plan for everything. I know it's not always perfect, and it's always going to change a little bit depending on what the summer actually turns into. But really, as far out as we can be looking ahead when it comes to we know the fields we have more problems with are where that hot spot might be in a specific neighborhood. And I would say, try to get your arms around where that might be, and so you have a plan together. And once you do see that, you're ready to act and not trying to respond to it, and maybe a little bit too late.
All right, and for our farmer listeners who would like to get in touch, learn more about those seed traits, and even look into getting that seed for this year, how can they do that?
Yeah, so I would reach out to your local Pioneer sales representative. We have one in nearly every community across the state and across the U.S. And then they're a fantastic resource for any and all questions. And then beyond that, we have our local Pioneer field teams with field agronomists that are also living and working in all those same neighborhoods. Excellent source of information.
That again was Will Tubbs of Pioneer. Special thanks again to Meristem and Iowa Corn for supporting our coverage of Commodity Classic. We'll take a look at the closing markets next, but first, here's a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and we're talking now with Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Robin, here at the close on St. Patrick's Day, were the markets as green as everybody's shirts?
not all of them. Corn and wheat were green, celebrating St. Patrick's Day. Corn up moderately. Wheat showed some very good strength. Kind of backed off a little bit toward the close, but still closed pretty nicely. Soybeans under a little bit of pressure. I'm kind of mixed there, but soybean meal was under a little more pressure all day long, closing in the negative. Weekly export inspections, we had corn at 65.3 million bushels. That was down 7.3 million bushels from the previous week. Soybeans at 23.8 million bushels, down 7.6 million bushels. And wheat was at 18.1 million bushels. That was up 9.2 million bushels. So probably some of the business that helped as far as some support to the wheat market. Now, there was a private sale of 218,604 metric tons of corn to an unknown destination overnight or early this morning, and 20,000 metric tons of soybean oil. Now, the NOPA crush came out and for the month of February, and that showed soybean crush at 177.87 million bushels. Now, that was quite a bit below expectations. The expectations were 188 million bushels. In January, it was 200.383 million bushels. So that was a pretty negative January of last year, I should say. So pretty underperforming in the crush, but yet it didn't have a large impact per se on the soybean market. One of the things that kept the soybean meal under wraps. February soybean oil stocks on the same report was at 1.503 billion pounds. They expected 146 billion pounds compared to 1.274 billion pounds 1 year ago. So we had stocks a little bit higher, even though crush was a little bit lower. And crush margins really are terrible at this point in time, and they're really not expecting that to change a whole lot. Hence, we might be seeing a little bit less of the crush going on because they really don't see a lot of change in that in any time in the near future. Now, firm out of Brazil, Safras Mercado lowered Brazil soybean production again, their output to 172.45 million metric ton. That's down from their previous estimate of 174.88 million metric ton. Now, the key growing areas, or key growing period, I should say, for second crop corn in Brazil is in the next 40 days. And it's the driest overall that it's been in the past 7 years. Now, some rain chances are expected, but, we're starting that second crop growing season a little bit on the back foot, if you want to say, or on the heel. Now, that can change next 40 days. We got some timely rains coming through there. Not a whole lot is expected as we look forward here, but there are some rain chances that'll be coming through. So something to keep an eye on, probably providing some support to the market. And when we looked at export inspections on corn where they are right now, they're running a good bit ahead of what USDA is projecting, and they are running ahead of the last 3 years. So we're doing pretty well in that aspect. Soybeans are struggling a little bit. So overall, it was not an exciting day for the grain markets.
All right, Robin, and then on the other side of the marketplace with the livestock markets, how did the cattle and hogs trade today?
Well, cattle and hogs really celebrated St. Patrick's Day with triple-digit gains in all of the contracts. August and later futures for live cattle pushed to new contract highs. Feeder cattle set new contract highs in all categories, with the August contract almost or within striking distance, if you want to say, of reaching $290. That's unprecedented. It's exciting. It's really interesting to see that continued strength under that market. The concern over tariff situation for the beef really has been digested, and apparently it's not much of an issue now. One of the reasons we're seeing the strength is because the strong cash last week. We didn't trade cash cattle, basically the first 4 days of last week, but the floodgates let loose on Friday. Southern live cattle traded $5 to $6 higher, with northern dressed $9 higher. That brings us back pretty much to where it was before we saw the decline over the previous few weeks. So we really saw some strength there as the packers had to step up to the plate. Midday box beef prices were excellent, with choice up $6.19 and select up $1.75. That is exhibiting strong demand at this point. On the hog side of it, we had two chart gaps when we opened this morning. April and May left chart gaps underneath. It may be closed, but they regained the losses of the last 2 days. And then some. Midday cutouts were up $3.55. Now then, the cash market, the National Direct morning report showed cash was down $2.03. That's not unexpected. Friday or on a Monday, generally packers are waiting to see what the demand is over the weekend. But with strong cutouts, I'm assuming that tomorrow and maybe the next 2 or 3 days, we're going to see some stronger cash as packers step up to the plate. Now, optimism seems to have returned for pork demand, and that could be because consumer sentiment fell 11% from February, and the lowest consumer sentiment since November 2022. And that could work with the high beef prices that consumers might be looking a little bit more toward lower priced pork in their diets, because grocery costs are going higher.
All right, Robin, lots of great information today. For anyone who'd like to get in touch and learn more marketing information from agmarket.net, how can they do that?
You can call me directly if they would like at 877-256-3253, or they could go to our website, agmarket.net. There's an 844 number there. Feel free to call in, and somebody will be glad to work with you.
Great talking with you as always, Robin, and we look forward to getting more great market analysis soon.
All right, thank you, and have a happy St. Patrick's Day.
That again was Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers close through the market window at iowaagnet.com. May corn up 2.5 at $4.61 even. May soybeans down half a cent at $10.15.5. May soybean meal down $1.60 at $3.04.30. Soybean oil up 51 cents at $42.10. Chicago wheat up 11.5 at $5.68.5. Kansas City hard red wheat up 19.5 at $6.05.5. Minneapolis spring wheat up 12 3/4 at $6.14.5. May oats up 1 1/4 at $3.69 even. On the Merc, April live cattle up $1.85 at $205.02. April feeders up $3 at $284.20. April lean hogs up $1.45 at $88.07. Pork cutout up $2.72 at $97.22. April class 3 milk down 39 cents at $17.17. And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. That also brings us to the end of today's episode. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok. and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Check out as well our free morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as the Iowa Ag Matters podcast and Pods of Potential. Find those on your favorite podcasting service at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean, or as always on our website at iowaagnet.com under the podcast tab. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson, Andy Peterson, and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.